Hi, I'm Divine Harmony, and I'm here to give you the weekly astrology forecast for June 13th through June 19th. I'm doing these special goddess forecasts looking at all the traditional astrology as well as what's going on with the asteroid goddesses, Juno, Pallas, Vesta, and Ceres, as well as the dark goddesses, Lilith and Eris. I'm doing this in anticipation of the amazing women's online conference in July, the Sex God Yoga Conference. More information on that at the end of this video. So this week, we've got some powerful energy brewing. That's been kind of par for the course, though, lately. If you could check in, I'm sure that would resonate for you. Everybody's got a lot going on at the moment. So this week starts off with Venus in Gemini, quincunx retrograde Mars. And actually, that's on Monday, and a little bit later in the day, Venus squares Chiron, the winded healer. So Venus in Gemini, she's the goddess of love and beauty. She has to do with what we value, what we're attracted to, what's important to us. And in Gemini, she values intellectual rapport. She values learning and exploration and freedom and space. An intense aspect with retrograde Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio is very different. There's a huge theme this week, actually, between the Gemini surface energies and the Scorpio depths. There's yin and there's yang, there's light and there's shadow, there's masculine and feminine. All of it comes together to create a whole. And the surface and the depth are the same. We want to be able to go down deep, but also come back up and address and deal with the surface. And so there's this journey of navigating these two realms this week. The shadow of Venus quincunx Mars can literally be a head-to-head with, one part of ourselves that wants to be kind of on the surface, doesn't want to deal with the shadow, doesn't want to deal with what's hidden, what we don't want to look at. And then the other part of us that's kind of dragging us down and in and going, you need to look at this. This could manifest internally as something going on within your own psyche, or it could be externally, where you could be living one of these archetypes. You could either be the Gemini energy and have the Scorpio, energy playing out around you and get triggered by other people who are kind of forcing you to see your shadow or being overly intense, overly emotional. Or you could be the Scorpio energy, and you could be like plumbing the depths, but having a hard time coming up for air and getting some perspective. And then you could find a lot of shadow side of Gemini, flighty, superficial people around you that are really triggering the crap out of you. People who don't want to deal with or address their shadow. And so that's how we start the week. And it's a theme all week long. So really checking in on where you're living on the surface and where you're living in the depths, and where are you on the surface to escape the depths, or where are you in the depths to escape the surface, and where can you find middle ground where you can have one foot in both worlds and it doesn't feel like you have to choose this or that and one part of yourself has to be negated entirely. So that starts off our week. Venus quincunx Mars and Venus square Chiron. We also have Neptune stationing retrograde at 12 degrees 2 minutes Pisces. We could feel the Neptune station all last week, even a couple weeks before. Definitely strong this week. When a planet stations, it slows down and comes to a standstill from our perspective on Earth. If you're actually to go off planet, go to the sun, you do not see planets go backwards. So it's all an Earth-based perspective, but the astrology that I practice is geocentric. It's Earth-based as we look up and see what's going on out there and what it mirrors for down here. So Neptune at a standstill, the slowest planet in the sky is the strongest. And, the outer planets move very slowly. Uranus moves through a sign in 7 years, Neptune, 13 to 15, Pluto 15, 16. But when they're at a standstill, they are the slowest. So Neptune is the slowest, and his energies are extra strong for good and for not so good. So Neptune in Pisces, the sign he rules, the positive side is mystical, intuitive, psychic. The dreams can be off the charts. Your ability to sense what's going on that's not, visible to the five senses that's coming in from other worlds, other perception, other sense perceptions. Very strong. But the shadow side of Pisces is overly amplified as well. And the shadow side of Pisces is denial, delusion, deception, addiction, confusion, playing the victim or the martyr, purposefully deceiving the self or others, wearing rose-colored glasses, not wanting to see reality. This is extra potent because Saturn is going to square Neptune towards the end of the week on Friday, the 17th. So we've got Neptune coming to a standstill, and then a few days later, Saturn squares it. And oh boy, this is a powerful week for seeing reality, seeing deceptions coming at you from others, coming from within, inside. You know, that we deceive ourselves a lot. Like, where do we not want to see our shadow? Where do we not want to deal with things? Where do we not want to address our part in situations and just kind of check out, spiritually bypass? It's definitely a week to look beneath the surface, question what you're told by yourself, your own mind, by people in your life, by political figures, spiritual teachers, the media. It's a time to question and not just take things in whole and not digest them, because there are some nebulous energies out there, and we need to be able to see with our inner vision and not get confused by outer vision that's going to possibly be manipulated by behind the scenes energies. Keep that in mind this week. Monday evening, the sun sextiles Eris, and then overnight into the early morning on Tuesday, the 14th, the sun sextiles Uranus. So this is the sun's activation of the Uranus-Eris conjunction that was exact last week, Wednesday, June 8th. And so Uranus, the rebel, the revolutionary, the great awakener, aligning with Eris, the goddess of discord and upheaval. Her medicine is one of shining a light on what no one wants to look at. What's beneath the surface, what's hidden, what's being ignored. Eris comes in and pulls it up and goes, what about this? She does that to us personally. Where are we not looking at something within ourselves, but also in our circles, in our relationships, and, you know, our spiritual community, our world at large. Again, the media. I think there might be a big thing with the media right now. Actually, I know there is if you've been watching politics lately. So the positive side of Sun, Eris, Uranus is accessing that revolutionary energy and really standing in it and going, I'm not going to put up with crap anymore. You know, here's what I need, and here's where I stand, and these are my boundaries, and I'm going to, you know, express what I need to express. It's also a great time for information downloads, getting insights, aha moments, things that come in and just turn that light bulb on and make you see things in a way you did not see them before. But, you know, it's maybe a little disruptive, upheaval-ish, and at the same time, the truth will set you free. So being willing and able to see the truth as it is, not as you want it to be, or as you're told it is, very important this week, this month, and this year. On Tuesday also, Mercury quincunxes Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, another dark goddess energy. And again, we've got this juxtaposition of the Gemini-Scorpio energies. Mercury in Gemini loves to learn and explore and likes information and likes to talk, but also likes to flit around like a butterfly from flower to flower and doesn't want to really stay with any one thing. You know, that's the Gemini energy. It's lighthearted and playful and childlike. Scorpio is different. It's deep, it's intense, it penetrates beyond the facade, it gets to the truth, it goes into the underworld. So these two energies, they look at each other like, who are you? You know, Gemini is just like, I don't understand someone that wants to live in the underworld and see all the shadow, and says that to Scorpio. And then Scorpio says to Gemini, I don't understand someone who wants to live on the surface and doesn't want to question what's beneath the surface. And so these two are at odds all week. And Mercury with Black Moon Lilith really is a challenge to find a way to get them to work together. It may not be easy, though. Really, you know, being willing to access the dark goddess energies of seeing beyond the facade and getting to the truth. Again, personal, in your relationships, collective, whatever, is important. And being willing to see where manipulation of information is happening, you know, within yourself or in any area of your life. And then also the Sun quincunxes retrograde Mars that night as well. So again, here we go, Gemini, Scorpio, you know, it's all throughout the week. The good news is that the Sun, Mars, is actually triggering over into Wednesday, the Sun will square Chiron. So the Sun is triggering the Mars Chiron trine. So Mars and Chiron are trine each other, and it was exact, I believe, last week, but they'll do it again when he goes direct. And Mars is the will, the warrior, and the drive, and he's in watery, emotional, intense, passionate Scorpio, and he's trining Chiron, the wounded healer, who shines a light on our biggest wounds and pain and helps us to gain greater awareness of our wounds and pain, how they run us, how we unconsciously make decisions from this place. He makes us go into the core of things. Like, it's a great time, actually, right now, to get into your core emotional wounds, the ones that run your life. You know, like 90%, I think, I read this somewhere around there, 90% of the decisions we make in life are run by our unconscious conditioning. So you think you dress in a certain way, you eat a certain kind of food, you have a particular kind of job, you date a certain kind of person. You think you're making these decisions consciously. Mostly you're not. They're being run by unconscious conditioning. They're being run by messages you got when you were young. Like, you know, if I only eat, you know, tofu and lettuce, like maybe I had a parent who was like overly perfectionist, and, you know, if I ever got overweight, I wouldn't be loved. And so my choices of what I'm eating is actually coming from some wounds from childhood. Or the type of person that I date totally mirrors patterns with the opposite sex parent. You know, whether like maybe that parent was emotionally unavailable, and so then I go for emotionally unavailable men. Or, you know, like for a boy, his mother was super critical and demeaning of him, and so he gets in relationships with critical, demeaning women. It's not about the people in your outer life. It's actually about these inner patterns that create this magnetism that draws these situations into your life. So this is a good time to be digging and getting into those underlying patterns that run us, for the purpose of getting to the core so that you can then affect change from the core. If you're just trying to change on the surface, good luck. You'll be doing that for the rest of your life. But if you actually want to really change, it's got to start deep inside. And this is a time to do that work. Not easy, but it's a good time to do that work. Mars trine Chiron can help. So the Sun triggering that, Sun quincunx Mars Tuesday night and Sun square Chiron Wednesday, is kind of activating the need to go deep, to get into emotions, to get into our feelings, to not run away. Like if you find a lot of pain coming up, or anger, or rage, or whatever, you know, Gemini by itself will go, oh, okay, moving on, let's do something else. You know, let's turn on the TV, let's get on Facebook, let's have a glass of wine, let's go and go on a date, to check out, to not have to sit with all that is coming up. But that's not really the best use of this astrology. You want to sit with it. You want to sit with it and feel into it and move through it and beyond it. And that's a process that takes work and it takes commitment, and it's not the easy path, but it is the path, you know, the right path, the dharmic path, if you will. So that is Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, Pluto, the Lord of the Underworld, trines the evolutionary North Node. Last week through the beginning of this week, so there's two variations of the node. There's the mean node, which just always moves in one direction and doesn't ever go retrograde. And so you only have one linking up of Pluto and the mean node, and that's the one on Thursday the 16th. But the true node is erratic, and that actually happened 3 times. And it happened last week, I believe, on Thursday the 9th and Saturday the 11th, and then this week on Tuesday the 14th. I didn't mention it in last week's forecast because I didn't want to confuse people with the variations of the node, and I was just going to talk about it this week. But I am mentioning it because it was profound last week and this week, and because this is slow-moving Pluto on the evolutionary North Node. We've been feeling it building, really actually since January. And so we've got a beautiful alignment between Pluto, the planet of transformation and evolution and empowerment, and the North Node of destiny, evolution, and growth. The North Node is not the easy growth. It's where you're pushed out of the nest and you figure out how to fly falling down. And it's not where we typically willingly go. You know, at some point on our spiritual path, we'll willingly go there, only after we've gotten beaten up enough by the South Node. And then we're like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with those karmic patterns. Like, I don't want to keep playing them out. I'm done. And when you finally get that inside of yourself, that I'm done, and it's not like I'm done if, I'm done but, or I think I'm done, well, maybe I'm done. It's like, I'm done. that's when you start aligning with the North Node. And that's actually when life dramatically changes for the better. So Pluto aligning with the North Node, major openings right now for evolution and transformation and growth, for empowerment, for anchoring into a deeper sense of integrity and self-mastery. Virgo, the North Node in Virgo has deep integrity and is very discerning, can see the truth, can see the shadow, calls things out, doesn't just go, oh, whatever, and kind of stay on the surface, like really gets deep and calls out what's seen in the shadow, within the self, within others. Pluto in Capricorn is all about the death and rebirth of structures and foundations in our lives. So if we've built our life on some structure and then we find out it's no longer in integrity with who we are, or maybe it's never been in integrity with who we are, and we actually wake up to that, then we're challenged to change things, to strip it down and rebuild. Yet most people, that's a scary concept. It's like, my whole life is built on this. Why would I strip it down? And so a lot of people will just kind of hold on until it really actually just completely falls apart, as opposed to self-initiate your own transformations, your own transitionary periods in your life. We have option and we can be the agent of change in our lives, or we can let the universe do it. And very often when the universe does it, it feels a little more intense and we might be dragged kicking and screaming. So Pluto with the North Node is a massive opportunity for realignment with your destiny, or furthering you on your path of destiny. It's so profound. And Jupiter is involved in the whole thing. I think it's next week that Jupiter is going to align with the North Node, and also trine Pluto. Yeah, the 24th through the 26th. So we don't just have Pluto trine the North Node, we've got Jupiter on the North Node trining Pluto as well. And it's just like the doors are opening for growth. All you have to do is choose to move through them. Of course, where it is playing out in your chart will tell you the different areas of life, so you can check the weekly horoscopes for that. So that's Thursday the 16th. Friday the 17th, we have Venus at the very last degree of Gemini, trining retrograde Juno at the very last degree of Libra. So the last degree of any sign is very karmic. It's like a karmic completion degree. And I mentioned last week about this because Juno actually she is retrograde, and she backtracked into the last degree of Libra, where she will essentially be for a whole entire month, because she's going to station direct on June 22nd. So from June 7th to July 7th, Juno is at 29 Libra and just kind of hovering there. And this is super karmic when it comes to relationships. Juno has to do with partnership, marriage, contractual arrangements, commitments, and hovering at the karmic degree and in retrograde motion and then stationing direct. It's like a lot of stuff up around what needs to complete in relationships, what needs to complete in patterns we've been playing out in relationship. That's kind of the bigger one, really. If you find yourself in relationship situations and you're like, oh, I'm being called to leave this partnership or whatever, that's the outer manifestation of an inner process. And if you don't want to keep repeating that, whatever it is that's making you want to leave the relationship, you need to do the inner work to change the patterning. Otherwise, you're just going to attract the next person and have the same dynamic. And so there's this profound time right now to really go inside and see, where are we playing out karmic patterns ad nausea for perhaps lifetimes, and it's time to complete them. So Venus trine Juno can be a time of finding alignment with that, like getting really clear on our needs and what is the path of self-worth and self-love. What are we being called to find balance with in our lives between desire and need, commitment and freedom? What is needing to end in our lives, patterns, literal situations, relationships, and otherwise. And then Venus moves into Cancer, and she'll be in Cancer for several weeks. Venus, has to do with love and beauty and relationship. And so in Cancer, she values home and family and nurturing and nourishment, and she's very sensitive and emotional in this sign. So the coming weeks are a great time to spend a lot of time with family and beautifying your home and spending time at home and enjoying where your roots are, where your foundation is. Just be aware of the shadow side of Venus in Cancer. She can be overly emotional and have a hard time getting perspective, stepping out of her emotional vortex. She can also be very attached to the past and have a hard time letting go. And there's definitely a theme right now of letting go. So facilitating the letting go process is important. And then later that day, Saturn squares Neptune. And so this is the second Saturn-Neptune square. The first was right around Thanksgiving of last year, and then the last one will be later, I think September or October. I don't have the date written down. And Saturn is root chakra, Neptune is crown chakra. Saturn is 3D world and reality. Neptune is other worlds and other realities and other dimensions. Saturn square Neptune really is like this head-to-head between what is and what is possible or what can be. Getting stuck in either perspective is problematic. If all I'm paying attention to is what is possible, I've got, rose-colored glasses, I'm seeing the possibilities, I'm seeing the potential, but I'm not paying attention to reality. The other flip side, if I'm only paying attention to reality and what's wrong and what's not working, then I can't see the possibility, and I've lost touch with my dreams and potential. I tell people when I do readings, people have a lot of strong Neptune Pisces, that they're gifted at seeing to the heart of people and seeing the potential. But you have to balance that with seeing the reality of where people are at, because that potential you see may not be realized for 10 more years or 10 more lifetimes. And your decision to be involved in relationships, situations, whatever, needs to be based on the here and now. So Saturn square Neptune is a reality check. It's like, what is going on in the here and now? And where do we have rose-colored glasses on, or where do we have something pulled over our heads so we can't see? We're doing it ourselves, somebody else is doing it to us, the world, the media, whatever. And where do we need to take that off so that we can see clearly? It's a big time that can be, a feeling of disillusionment. But if that is the case, those are illusions you need to let go of. It's really a time of getting clear on what is, and then being able to implement and work towards what's possible. But you have to see what is first. You've got to get real, and that's a big part of this aspect. And then Saturday, Mars quincunx Uranus, and Mars, will, warrior, drive. Uranus is kind of the rebel, the revolutionary. This is a little, fiery, feisty of an aspect. Mars is still retrograde, so we're actually not supposed to be taking definitive actions right now, particularly with new things. If there's something old that you're like reworking, redoing, that's a little different, because retrogrades, any words with RE in front of it, can be supportive. But new projects, new associations, new partnerships, new whatever, initiating new things, not the best thing to do during Mars retrograde. It's more of a time of reflection, completing the past, tying up loose ends, dealing with karmic consequences of the past so that you can complete them and move forward. So Mars Uranus, we can feel a little fiery, like we want to take action, we want to make something happen. And it's a time of being able to really rein in the will and the desire nature and check in, like, where is the will coming from, the higher will or coming from the lower will? What are we being run by is a question right now. But on the positive side, Mars quincunx Uranus from essentially when Mars links up with Chiron, which was last week, I believe. Is it last week or next week? Yeah, it was last week. So Mars is triggering the Chiron-Uranus semisextile. And these two have been in semisextile aspects since 2009. They'll go till 2023. Chiron, the wounded healer, Uranus, the revolutionary, the two linking up. Profound openings for healing, for shift, for letting go of old patterns of denial, delusion, deception of self, of others, taking a stand, expressing anger, setting boundaries, like really amazing astrology. And Mars, linking up with the both of them, is helping us to get clear on our piece inwardly, of what we need to do inside ourselves in order to affect any change externally that we're wanting to actually implement and make happen. So it's a good time for inner work, although I kind of think it always is. And then Sunday, there's nothing going on in terms of major aspects. So as you can see, it's another powerful week, and these are interesting times. And isn't there's some parable or quote where they say, "May you be born in interesting times," and I think we all pretty much are. So whether that's a gift or a curse is all about perspective. So I hope that you enjoyed this forecast, and I hope that the women out there will join us at the Sex God Yoga Conference in July. This is being put on by Where Is My Guru, and the link to the conference can be found in the description of this video, but it's also whereismyguru.com/sex-god-yoga. And it's an amazing course with over 30 women who bring their wisdom and their experience around this journey of spirituality and sexuality. Like, how do you live in the profane and still remain sacred? How do you bridge the physical world with the spiritual world? How do you become the high priestess who sits between the two pillars, the black and white pillar, and anchor in between them and be able to live from both? And I'm really excited about it. I just recorded my interview yesterday, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody else's interviews. So I'm hoping that you will join us, and you can click on the link in the description to find out more information. And I hope you have a wonderful week and navigate the powerful energies consciously and from the heart. Blessings.